Hi, I'm back. Dr. DePass, the Lion of Mars. Chapter 9, Emergency. Excuse me. Cy gave us the same boring speech about safety once a year. No one really paid much attention to it. But after the alien meteorite crash and the rover incident, Cy was now on a personal mission to make sure everyone was up to date on emergency protocols. We had to carry a glow stick in our pocket. Cy would stop and check us. We had to make sure our enviro suits were clean and hung up and loaded with fresh oxygen canister, and that our shoes were always close to our beds, and on and on and on. It was annoying, but tolerable, until it wasn't. I was laying in bed fast asleep after a few weeks of rehab with memes. My sling was finally off, and while I still had occasional twinges of pain, it was nice to be able to sleep lying down again. That is until the alarm blared through the corridors, jerking me wide awake. Right away, I knew it was the emergency alarm. The whole settlement was rigged with them. An emergency could be anything from an injury to a fire. Whatever it was, everyone was supposed to rush to that location to help. As the alarm blared through the air, I realized Albie's snores had officially met their match. I squinted at the glowing digi-clock. "It's 0300, I said and groaned. "Let's go," Albie said, slapping his baseball cap on and staggering out of bed. When we made it to the source of the alarm, the mess hall, everyone was standing around in their pajamas looking half asleep. Everyone except Cy, who was alert, dressed in his uniform, and staring at his digi-watch. "What's going on?" I shouted. "What's the emergency?" "This is a drill," Cy explained. We hadn't had an emergency drill in years. In fact, I only remembered ever having two. "We're still missing Flossie and Vera," he said. I sat at the table next to Phineas. He was leaning against his cane and wearing his blue button-up sweater over his pajamas. If a piece of clothing could perfectly describe a person, this sweater was it for Phineas. It was fuzzy with fraying threads and two missing buttons. But it was soft and comforting and always made me feel safe. When I was little and had nightmares, Phineas would tuck that sweater around me and read to me until I fell asleep again. "I believe you children have caused Cy to lose his mind," Phineas told me in a loud voice. "Why do we have to do this in the middle of the night?" Ileana complained. She was wearing her pink pajamas. "Because it's Cy, Peanut Butter," Darby said, and gave her a kiss on the nose. Finally, Vera and Flossie came running in, and Cy turned off the alarm. He shook his head at them. "It took you 5 minutes longer than everyone else," Cy told them. "Wait, this isn't an emergency?" Flossie asked in confusion. "No, but it could have been," Cy said. "We need to tighten up our safety protocols around here." "I don't believe this," Vera muttered. But Cy didn't hear her, or maybe he pretended not to. "Next time," he said ominously, "move faster." I looked over at Albie. "Next time? Ah, dust it." Everyone was exhausted the next morning. I heard Salty Bill tell Cy if he did an emergency drill in the middle of the night again, he could cook his own breakfast. Then it was time for chores. Memes wouldn't let me do anything strenuous. No heavy lifting, no bending for hours in the farm, which left only one option, dust duty. The dust on Mars was fine and got into everything. It stung eyes and burned skin and caused dust cough. So there were filters to collect the dust in the air vents. They needed to be emptied every day. It was tedious but necessary. I grabbed a bucket and started my rounds. It was pretty simple. Just open each vent and empty the dust into the bucket. Today there wasn't much. Even though working in the farm was my favorite chore, I didn't mind dust duty. It was easy, and I liked getting to go around the whole settlement. I worked my way from room to room, emptying filters one by one. When I walked into the generator room, Darby was standing on a ladder, fiddling with something high on the wall. He was wearing overalls and a tool belt. "That's the wrong node for that air scrubber, Jelly," Ileana shouted up to him. "No, it's not, Peanut Butter," he said. On Earth, Darby had been a general contractor, which meant he could fix just about anything. I'm telling you, it's the wrong one, she said with her hands on her hips. I replaced them 3 seasons ago, remember, he said as he climbed down. Did you put it in the record? Ileana asked. Darby gave her a hopeful smile. Maybe. The record was where changes and improvements to the settlement were recorded, because while most of the grown-ups could do a little of everything, cooking, gardening, plumbing, each one had a primary responsibility. If that person was unavailable, the record would help someone else figure out what to do when something broke. You're hopeless, Ileana said with a wry smile. What am I going to do with you? Keep me? He asked before he swooped in and kissed her. Ew, yeah, time to get moving. My next stop was the algae farm. Phineas was puttering around in the hydroponic section. How are the carrots coming along? I asked him. Do you think they'll be ready in time? Yes, he said, which reminds me I have something for you. You do? I asked as I followed him back to the cluttered office. I forgot I even brought it with me, he said, handing me a wooden box. I opened the lid. Inside were paper cards. Is it a game? I asked. It's a recipe box, Phineas said. It belonged to my wife. What's a recipe box? It's an old Earth way of keeping recipes. Each card is a different dish. Oh, I said. See, he said, and picked up a card. This was her recipe for carrot cake. I could read the title, Yummy Carrot Cake. But the recipe was hard to make out. It was written in a loopy hand. What language is this? I asked Phineas. It's English. It doesn't look like English, I said. He chuckled. It's a way of writing called cursive. If you were in school on Earth, you would know how to read cursive. Good thing I'm on Mars, I said. He burst out laughing. Do you know what? Rose would have loved you. Really? I asked. We couldn't have children of our own, he said wistfully. It was our greatest regret. Well, now you have all of us kids, I pointed out. His eyes softened. Too true. Do you want to know a secret? I nodded. After Rose, you, dear Belle, are the best thing to happen in my life, he said. Well, after Leo, you're the best thing to happen in my life, I told him. He shook his head and smiled. My last stop was the train tunnel. The train connected all the settlements. It had been built as a joint project by the 5 founding countries, the United States, France, Finland, Russia, and China. They attempted to build a train track on the surface, but complications caused them to have to move the whole thing underground. Phineas was right. It was an engineering wonder. Too bad we didn't use it anymore. When I slid open the door to the train tunnel and stepped inside with my bucket, an icy blast of air hit my face. The tunnel was kept pressurized, but not heated, and the air smelled rusty. I snapped a glow stick and held it up. There in darkness was our train, Percy. Ileana had named it after an Earth digireel about talking trains. Percy was designed to hold cargo because most of the early inventors wanted to mine Mars for its riches, opal, gold, iridium, palladium, and other minerals. Even though we weren't permitted to visit the other settlements, Ileana still made sure the train was in working order. When we were younger, she would even let us drive it. We never went far, just to the second curve and back. One time I honked the horn as we went around the curve, and someone farther down the tunnel honked back. Trey and I had always wondered which country the person was from. My stomach was growling. It was nearly lunchtime, so I stopped reminiscing and got to work emptying the filter. I was about to leave when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. I squinted into the inky blackness of the tunnel and then froze when something stared back at me. Something with glowing green eyes. Except people didn't have glowing eyes. But I bet aliens did. The bucket fell from my hand, spilling dust. Could the aliens have survived the crash and somehow gotten into the tunnel? Were they even now infiltrating our settlement? Would they eat us or turn us into mushrooms or something worse? Although, what was worse than being turned into a mushroom? And what did they look like? Did they have big teeth and sharp claws? Were they slimy? Did they spit poison? My head was spinning. I was getting ready to make a run for it when I blinked, and the eyes disappeared. I held up my glow stick, looking around the shadows, but there was nothing. Had it even been real, or had I imagined the whole thing? Before I could investigate, an alarm started blaring. No doubt it was Cy with another of his emergency drills. I left the tunnel, and as I made my way toward the alarm, I saw Trey and Vera and Flossie walking down the corridor. No one was in a hurry. I fell into step with them. I think this is Cy's way of punishing us for the whole Rover thing, Flossie said. We're going to be doing emergency drills for the rest of our lives, Vera said bitterly. While there had been no more middle-of-the-night drills, we had 2 alarms this week. The source of this one was the generator room. But when Flossie went to open the door, it didn't bulge. Huh? She said. It's locked. What do we do? I asked. Beats me, Vera said. So we just stood around and waited for someone to tell us what to do. Memes came rushing down the hall carrying her med kit. It's locked, I explained. We can't get inside. Her face scrunched up. Locked? That doesn't make any sense. Well, it is, Vera said, jutting out her chin. Cy just wants to torture us. Memes banged on the door. Hello? Anyone in there? No one answered, and the alarm kept blaring. Maybe the alarm malfunctioned, Memes said. Just then, Phineas came down the corridor. He was moving more slowly than usual, using one hand to steady himself with the cane while the other touched the wall. What are you all doing out here when the alarm is coming from the generator room? He asked. The door's locked, Memes told him. The alarm must have malfunctioned. He stared at the door and then looked at Memes. Check the carbon dioxide level, he said. Confusion flashed across her face. Carbon dioxide? Quickly, he urged. Memes scrambled for her medkit. She pulled out an instrument, holding it to the crack below the door. A red light started blinking. Oh no, Memes cried, her face pale. The air scrubber failed. Every room had a carbon dioxide sensor. If it detected a dangerous amount of carbon dioxide, it locked the room to protect the rest of the settlement. Help me open the door, Memes ordered quickly. They've probably passed out from the carbon dioxide. We pushed at the door again and again, but it was heavier than it looked. None of us were strong enough. Then Albie's big body was barreling down the hall. He was wearing his Enviro suit and carrying his helmet. What's going on? He yelled. Cy said he would meet me topside. The air scrubber failed and they're locked inside. Memes shouted. We can't open the door. Move, Albie ordered, putting the thin helmet over his head. He took a few steps back and threw himself at the door. It crashed open. Huh? Maybe he would make a good football player. On the floor were the motionless bodies of Cy, Ileana, and Darby. Hurry, Phineas shouted. Get them out and shut the door. Albie dragged them out with quick efficiency. Memes put masks on them and hooked them up to the oxygen. Ileana was the first one to open her eyes. She seemed confused and tried to pull off the mask. Memes batted her hands away. Keep breathing, she encouraged. A heartbeat later, Darby groaned. My head is killing me. Then Cy took a deep, labored breath, but didn't open his eyes. Sit rep, he whispered in a hoarse voice. The air scrubber failed. You almost died. Memes said, her voice rising. All of you almost died. Darby looked at his wife and grabbed her hand. Are you okay, Peanut Butter? She looked at him tiredly. I told you that was the wrong node, Jelly. All right, come back for chapter 10, Algae Days. So the letter that was written, here's the letter that was written after chapter 9. And it says, I am in receipt of your communication regarding the updated time of arrival for the resupply ship. We will be standing by. And that's on 4/28/2091. All right, see you back for chapter 10. Bye.